Women are 40% more likely to experience depression during perimenopause. If your brain is going through depression, it's probably shrinking and you're probably dealing with an increased risk for dementia. So don't end up over there where estrogen is not your friend and it's potentially dangerous. I want to stay on this side of things. A rapid decline in estrogen in menopause has been associated with an increased risk of cognitive decline, like I said, and higher likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease and memory issues. So that's a problem. And then the depression stats, perimenopausal and postmenopausal depression, studies suggest that up to 30 to 50% of women experience some form of depressive symptoms during the menopausal transition. That's half of women going through a process, if they live long enough, that they're going to go through. The risk of developing major depressive disorder increased by 2 to 4 times during this time. Women are 40% more likely to experience depression during perimenopause. So if you are perimenopausal and you feel like your brain is just going on you, for me, it was brain fog mixed with this. It was like a cocktail of brain fog, depression, and just not being able to remember what the heck I even did yesterday, and a lot of frustration around it. Look into having your estrogen levels tested by somebody who knows what's up. Now, when you're in perimenopause, your levels are going to be all over the place. So that's why it's important to find somebody to work with who is willing to work with you on this and maybe go on a trial run. Women are 40% more likely to experience depression during perimenopause. And responsibly, because just saying, oh, well, so many people going, oh, you're perimenopausal, their doctor says, so there's no point in testing and there's no point in trying anything. Just wait until your periods are gone. I'm nowhere near my periods being gone at this point, and I don't think I could have waited any longer. Like, that would have been miserable. So find somebody that you can work with. You're probably going to pay out of pocket for them, and they're probably not going to be cheap, because anybody worth their salt isn't stuck in the insurance model, because the insurance model is, that's a topic for another day. So expect to pay out of pocket, invest in yourself, and find somebody who can help you. There was a 2015 study in JAMA Psychiatry, a longitudinal study published, found that incidence of depressive symptoms increased significantly during the menopausal transition. Again, women going through perimenopause were 2.5 times more likely to experience depressive symptoms than premenopausal women. So this is just study after study after study showing. There's a 2024 study in the Journal of Affective Disorders, The Risk of Depression in Menopausal Stages, a systematic review and meta-analysis. The perimenopausal stage, similar to prior research, the study found that perimenopause is the most vulnerable stage for depression, with a significant increase in the incidence of depressive symptoms. This heightened risk is linked to hormonal fluctuations, obviously, particularly the decline in estrogen. The postmenopausal stage, the risk of depression remains elevated in postmenopausal women, though it tends to decrease compared to the perimenopausal stage. So they seem to kind of get over the hump, and it sounds like the brain regulates out. So if you're one of those people who really want to raw dog this, then you may get to the other side and things will improve. I have seen that with countless women in my practice who didn't want to do hormones. They went through a really terrible phase, though. Their family members would say, and some of you probably had experienced this with your mothers or even yourself, like, my mom went crazy for like 5 years. That's what people will say. And I saw it with patients. Like, I watched them lose their wits for 5 years. And then all of a sudden they were calm again as they sort of moved through it. But this can go on for 5-10 years for some women. Like, why would anybody want to go through that? I don't want my brain to go through that. That doesn't sound like a fun thing to have happen. Hormonal stability in postmenopause offers some protection, but the long-term effects of estrogen depletion may still contribute to depression in some women. And if your brain is going through depression, it's probably shrinking, and you're probably dealing with an increased risk for dementia. So depression and dementia go hand in hand, and depression and pain go hand in hand. So I just think all of that is unnecessary if we could just slap on a patch. And truthfully, if your insurance covers it, it's pennies on the dollar to get your monthly supply of patches. Again, we want to have the micronized progesterone on board, or some kind of progesterone that works for the patient. Hormonal and psychosocial influences. The study emphasizes that both biological factors and psychosocial factors like life stressors, aging, health concerns. I've talked about this on the podcast. We are a stressed out group here in this middle-aged women group. Are key contributors to increased risk of depression. So anyway, all that to say, Mood regulation, mental health, give me the estrogen and progesterone. I'm here for it. And estrogen also plays a crucial role in serotonin regulation. That's very important for our mental well-being. So anyway, enough with that. And then the big one, metabolic health and insulin sensitivity. As our estrogen wanes, our metabolic health declines because our insulin sensitivity also wanes. We will become more insulin insensitive. We will become more insulin resistant as we age, no matter what, as the estrogen wanes. I don't want that happening for me personally. That leads to weight gain. That leads to the middle-aged middle. I have done a whole podcast about it. You guys can go listen and check that out. Just a few weeks ago, I did that. No, thank you. Like, no, thank you, diabetes down the line. No, thank you, heart disease. So just forget everything I just said about losing estrogen and the direct impacts on the body. Now let's talk about all the horrific things that metabolic dysfunction does to the body. So you're getting it twofold. You're getting the increased risk of heart disease and bone loss and joint degradation and brain degradation from literally cause and effect from the lowering of the estrogen. And now you're getting it due to the insulin dysregulation that's happening in the body and the metabolic bustedness that you're heading into as your estrogen wanes. So it's like a double whammy. And I just say no, thank you. I don't want the weight gain. I don't want the fatigue. I don't want all of the downstream impacts of what busted metabolism does to a person and what insulin resistance does to a person. So, and then just a word on hot flashes and night sweats. I just want to share some information that you may not know because a lot of people don't know this. They think, oh, it's just hot flashes. It's no big deal. I'll just sweat it out in my bed. No, it's not just hot flashes. Here's what happens with, these are called vasomotor symptoms. Here's what happens. Vasomotor symptoms as predictors of overall health risk. Let me just read a few. Here's some recent findings. Severe vasomotor symptoms are increasingly being viewed as markers of systemic health risks. Women with frequent hot flashes have been found to have higher levels of inflammatory markers, which are linked to an increase of several chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, and diabetes. There is cardiovascular risk, like I said. There is a direct link between vasomotor symptoms and cardiovascular disease because it's related to vascular dysfunction and endothelial health, which is the inside lining of your blood vessels. They get spasmy. And here's another thing. If you take estrogen early enough, it can help with your endothelium and be protective to your vasomotor reactions. On the other side, if you wait too long and you're inflamed and you're in metabolic dysfunction land and you're in that excess adiposity land, it can actually vasoconstrict and become more dangerous. So this is where that window of opportunity is so important to get the estrogen on board so you don't end up over there where estrogen is not your friend and it's potentially dangerous. I want to stay on this side of things. There's also data showing cognitive decline linked to vasomotor symptoms, memory issues, cognitive impairment later in life, sleep disturbances, Alzheimer's disease, bone health, osteoporosis risk, increased risk of, again, insomnia, which leads to increased risk of mental health issues. All of these are linked to poor vasomotor symptomology. So if you're having vasomotor symptoms, it's not just hot flashes. It is a harbinger of doom, in my opinion. And when a woman comes in and says, I'm having the worst hot flashes, I'm like, oh no, that's not good. I wasn't having any overt hot flashes at night. I just get warm. And I do get warmer than I used to. So I guess that's like a baby hot flash, but that's significantly improved with the estrogen being steady state. Also, not drinking. I sweat to death during the night if I have been drinking, and drinking makes all the vasomotor symptoms much worse. And I used to sort of sit there as women in their menopausal years would come into my clinic and say, oh, I can't drink red wine anymore. It gives me hot flashes in the middle of the night. And I'd be like, oh, you poor lady, that must be terrible. It is terrible. I am experiencing it now. I'm so sorry to anyone that I did not fully honor your symptomology. It's terrible. And so red wine is not my friend. It messes up my deep sleep. I look at it on my Oura Ring. I have an 8 Sleep mattress topper by a company called 8 Sleep. That thing actually cools me down automatically, which is so great. And when I sleep somewhere else that's not this mattress topper on my own bed, I do end up getting kind of sweaty in the night. So, but my husband's like a Bunsen burner, and if there's any kind of mattress pad in the hotel, he'll like heat it up with his body heat, and then it gets to me, and then I get super hot. There's also an increased risk for diabetes. There's been a connection found between frequent hot flashes and increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So vasomotor symptoms, i.e. hot flashes, they're not benign. All right. I'm going to leave you guys with that. There's so much more I want to talk to you about. I am working on it. I'm going to find a way. Maybe it's going to be a book. Maybe it's, who knows, but I'm going to find a way to keep talking about this because there's so much I'm digging up that I think is fascinating that I want to share with you all. If you guys found this episode valuable, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe wherever you're listening to it. I am usually on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. You can also find these episodes, most of them that are not censorable, over on YouTube. And I love it when you guys rate, review, and subscribe. The ratings help me tremendously because it helps me rank in the algorithm and it helps other people see the podcast. So you guys have been phenomenal. My whole platform is real, it's organic, and it is truly people's just driven. Like, this is old school grassroots. You guys are driving this ship, and I appreciate you all so much for being here, and I appreciate you for spreading the message. And I hope that my content is binge worthy for you because I'm really trying to educate you, again, to empower you so that you can have educated conversations with your doctors. On that note, I have a free video called Finding a Good Doc, which is just like a quick and dirty version of the things that I look for in a good doctor because I cannot make personal referrals for you and I am no longer taking new patients. So you can find that on my website. It's drtyna, drtyna.com/find a doc. You can also jump into my 4-part video series called Ozempic Uncovered if you want to learn more about GLP-1s and just things that you may not have heard about in any of my podcasts yet or anywhere else on the news media, because we're getting bamboozled on this. And I think it's just crazy. What's coming out is really stunning. And I'm keeping up with that information inside my paid program. So after you'll get a video every single day. It's at drtyna.com/Ozempic Uncovered. You get a video every single day for 4 days, and then you will be offered the big program and with a nice discount on top of it. And you guys can grab that there and join the course while it is still available to the general public. If you're a clinician, I highly suggest you jump in there now before the price goes up. I have been getting great feedback. I was just at an event that was all health practitioners, and people were coming up to me and they're like, this course is a dream. This is what we wanted. This was an amazing introduction into peptides. And I talk about lots of other peptides in there. I'm actually going to be updating because we just got word that some of the peptides are back and we can prescribe them again. So I'm going to be doing an update inside that course if you guys are in there. I'm going to be adding a lesson about the new peptides that are back. They're old, but they're back again. So very exciting, new to many of you because you maybe have not learned about them yet. This episode of the Dr. Tina Show, I have a treat for you. I'm going solo on this episode, and I have been asked countless times by